Hey guys, it's Holly. Welcome back to my channel. I apologize in advance if this camera freezes up or things get a little funky with the camera, but overall, hopefully I'll get my message across in this video. So I did also just order a new camera, which should be coming in soon, and hopefully that one will work better than this one. But until then, I still have this one, and then I have my phones and tablets and everything else, but for the sake of this video, I have some stuff I'm going to be reading to you on my phone, so I am doing this on my old laptop right now. So, I apologize for any of my other videos. I know some of them you can see where the content is a little bit choppy with the freezing up on the camera, so I am working on that and am trying to fix that as soon as possible. So I am thankful in the meantime I can get my message across. And I know I look really shiny and sweaty. I just got done with a workout and I've had a really long day. So anyways, so tonight's video is going to be a bit of a heavy topic, and it's going to be about characters in the Bible who suffered with depression and even suicidal thoughts. And so I thought this would be something interesting to bring to the table because, for one, I feel like it could help a lot of people to just see that this existed even way back then. And really, quite honestly, just let people understand that this can be a very natural part of life. And, back then, I don't think they called it mental illness. I don't think back in biblical times they would look at somebody who felt this sadness and despair and this grief and say, "Look at you, you're sick, you're mentally ill." I just don't think they viewed it like that. I think they viewed it as a natural part of life. And so depression is usually simply, it's a reaction to what's going on in your life. And so it's just, like I've said before, I try to put a different perspective on mental and emotional health, and I don't like to use the term mental illness. I've said this before. I don't view most, depression, anxiety, all that kind of thing, PTSD. I don't view these things as illnesses. I view them as stages of life, parts of life, etc. I know the term mental illness kind of has its place in society, but quite frankly, I don't agree with a lot of it. So, anyways, I'm not going to get into all that tonight, but you guys know I'm trying to put a different perspective on mental health. So, anyways, so I'm going to be reading a few things to you from my phone. So, I've been wanting to do this video for a long time, actually, and this has helped me a lot during my struggles and during times of distress, and just knowing that, whether you're a Christian or not, this is something that I feel like people can still benefit just from knowing, even if you're looking at it from like a historical perspective, or even from a sheer perspective of it being just a story, like a fictional story, if you don't believe. So either way, I still feel like this can help. So first, I'm going to go over a few biblical characters who, quite frankly, just wanted to die, wanted to off themselves. So without further ado, excuse me. So we have, firstly, Moses. Now, this is one that I knew for sure. So basically, Moses suffered a lot, and in Numbers 11:13 through 15, Moses made a request to God. He said, "Just go ahead and kill me, do me a favor, and spare me the misery." And so God did not honor Moses' request. Instead, he provided help for Moses, so the entire burden would not be solely on him, according to Numbers 11:16. So this is an interesting concept because obviously this man is suffering and he says, just spare me the misery, kill me. Okay. So this is definitely something that, everyday people struggle with this stuff. It doesn't mean that something is super wrong with somebody. In fact, it doesn't mean that something is wrong with you if you have a feeling like this. And it's very common to, in moments when we are very caught up in emotion, very caught up in a feeling, a lot of times we just don't think rationally. And so you might literally think that or say that. But then, 5 or 10 minutes later, you might not be in that same state of mind. And so that's another really important thing to consider is that, So, moving on to the next one, we have Elijah. So, Elijah was a prophet, and his suffering, he became very discouraged, and he prayed that he might die, and he said, "I have had enough, Lord, take my life. I am no better than my ancestors," in 1 Kings 19:4. So, he wanted to die as well. And so, as we all know, Elijah was a great man. So, he never died. Anyways, so then we have Job. So, a lot of us know the story of Job. He ended up with so much misery and so much incredible grief and suffering. It's just literally just unimaginable sorrows. And so, by chapter 2 of Job, he lost everything, including all of his children. He was afflicted with sores over his body. His wife told him to curse God and die. Job was more concerned that he'd been forsaken by God than he was over his losses. So then it says he cursed the day of his birth, and he said, "Why did I not perish at birth and die as I came from the womb?" Job 3:11. And then it goes on to say he suffered through the entire book until God answered. He was restored and blessed by God so much he eventually got double of everything he had previously lost, except for his children, because he'll be with them in heaven. So, Job is a powerful one. His suffering really was intense. Not to say the others were not. So next we have Jeremiah. He was one of the major prophets, but even he said, "Cursed be the day I was born, the day my mother bore me, let it not be blessed." Jeremiah 20:14. So that's a really heavy statement, and that's very sad. When he says, "Cursed the day I was born, the day my mother bore me, let it not be blessed." So yeah, basically what he's saying is, I wish I'd never been born. So, again, heightened states of emotion, this kind of thing, it was happening way back then, even from the beginning of time. So those are our 5 biblical characters that wanted to die, or, So there are also so many more that went through extreme hardships. Characters in the Bible, we have even more of them that suffered from depression in general. So back then, I'm sure they didn't call it depression. Back then, you would just say, like, that person is sad, or that person is, going through grief. They're going through something. So, here we have 6 Bible verses about wanting to die. Another one I forgot to add in was Jonah. So, in Jonah 4:8, when the sun came up, God appointed a scorching east wind, and the sun beat down on Jonah's head, so that he became faint, and begged with all his soul to die, saying, "Death is better to me than life." So that was another thing with Jonah as well, and there's more to that, but that's all I'm going to read for now. So yeah, adding Jonah in with that as well. In the book of Revelation 9:6 says, "In those days men will seek death and will not find it. They will long to die, and death flees from them." So that is in reference to, suicide. I think that's a suicide reference in Revelation 9:6. So the Bible actually does talk about suicidal thoughts. As we can see, the Bible does talk about people that are struggling in general with depression. So, and it really, honestly, I find it very comforting to see these things and to study these things, because, as a Christian especially, I feel like it's very helpful. But even if you're not, a Christian, like I said before. So let's see if there's anything else I want to add here. We have, okay, so Bible characters who struggled with depression. Okay. And I'm also going to be doing a separate video on Bible characters who struggle with anxiety and other things as well. So definitely stay tuned for that. So again, we have Elijah. He definitely was seriously depressed, though he was a biblical hero. And so, let's see here. So, some people will say that depression is associated with sin, because people experiencing depression are seen to lack some of the spiritual fruits that are regarded as evidence of genuine Christian faith. So, in the church, some see mental illness as a weakness or a sign that you don't have enough faith, and obviously, I think that's just inaccurate. I think that we as humans, we're going to definitely struggle, and I don't think there's any way around it. I don't think anyone's going to ever be able to go their whole entire life from start to finish without ever feeling depressed, or struggling with depression. So it's just something to take into consideration. So, but yeah, I did some research on that too. Like, you know, a lot of churches and a lot of different denominations recognizing, or not recognizing, like mental health in general. Like, some of them don't believe in therapy, some of them don't believe in any kind of medications. And I've said before, I'm not anti-medication. I feel like people should do whatever they feel like they need to do to function and to live the best life that they possibly can. So anyways, there was also a story about Rebecca. Rebecca was another one that struggled. So I don't have the story right with me right now, but I'm just going through here, making sure I covered everything I wanted to. Let's see. We also have Martha. Martha was dealing with depression and anxiety, but scripture tells us that, let's see, Martha definitely dealt with some sadness. So David is another one. David dealt with very, very tremendous amounts of sorrow, and this was one of the first ones I read about. And so David had a really hard time seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. And so, you know, it's kind of like we see with these characters that they do not, you know, these biblical characters, it's like they're still suffering, and it's not so much a result of them not having enough faith. It's like they literally just can't help the way they feel. They're sad and they cannot help it. And I feel like this is ultimately a model for our lives this day and age, and that this is something that exists in most people at different times throughout our lives. So again, I feel like mental health, you know, has its place. I feel like mental health services have their place. I'm definitely huge on people doing whatever they need to do for their mental health. But ultimately, like I've said before, I just simply want to point out that I really just want to normalize feelings and emotions, and normalize the fact that because someone is under a lot of distress and grieving and suffering and full of sorrow for a period of time, it does not necessarily mean, it does not mean that the person is mentally ill. It is a human emotion, and it is a natural reaction to what is happening in someone's life. And if you really look at it, you don't just randomly see people who are truly really upset and really down and sad and sorrowful for absolutely no reason. You know, you think about it, you just don't see that. if you do, there could be an underlying reason, there could be something there, but those cases are very, very few and far between. For most people that deal with depression, it is simply something that's going on in their life. It could be something they feel like they can't change, something that's an event that's happened, a series of different events, a combination of different things contributing. And so that is what it is. So I don't like to view it as an illness because I feel like it really does more harm than good. And so, from my personal experience as well, I know that as soon as I stopped, feeling like it was an illness, as soon as I realized that this was a natural part of life, then it just, it got so much better. And so I really want to put that out there. And again, I will be doing a different video separately on biblical characters and anxiety. And so I think that's all I'm going to put in this video for right now, because I'm already over 15 minutes in and I need to go take a bath because it's really late right now. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video and I hope you can get something out of it. Definitely feel free to share it if you feel called. If you feel like anybody you know could benefit from this, whether they're religious or not. Like I said before, even looking at it from, historically, that this was, going on back then and so far back, even before that in time, and just not so much viewing it as an illness. And lastly, Jesus Christ himself dealt with depression, and so that's something we can get into later as well. But when even all of these people dealt with it, it just basically is an example and shows us that, hey, this is part of life. So with that being said, I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.